In the last episode, we ended off with a mysterious sword, but in this episode, we go full throttle into why the Swordsmith Village arc is some fans' favorite season, with most of the runtime being dedicated to battling, and my favorite demon Hantengu shows us what it's all about. If you haven't seen this episode as yet, spoilers ahead. So now that we're all caught up with the premise of the story, Tanjiro traveling to the village for another sword, we swing right into things where the last episode left off at manga chapter 105. The following episode, titled A Sword from Over 300 Years Ago, adapted chapters 105 to 107, which follows Tanjiro up to the surprise attack of the demons. So let's get into the breakdown and compare it to its manga counterpart. We begin with a quick recap of the previous episode, with Tanjiro slicing the neck of the doll and discovering the sword with Kotetsu. This would be chapter 105, and it's titled Something Came Out. It begins with our two goofballs screaming. To them, it seems shocking that something would be inside, but hey, that's the name of the chapter, so go figure. But seriously, how did it get there? Kotetsu then insists that Tanjiro takes the blade since he was the one to break the doll open. But you know Tanjiro, he graciously declines. But after some convincing, he finally pulls the sword from the doll. This all seems a bit familiar. However, the sword seems to be old and rusted. Maybe it's been there for like 300 years or something. Kotetsu didn't even know about this sword, but this goes back to something he said earlier. That means this blade is more than likely stronger than most blades built today, due to its craftsmanship. After all, it lasted 300 years until now. Funny enough, this is where Haganezuka would come out of hiding. The anime gives us a quick shot of Tanjiro before it cuts to the opening and we get the title card. I guess Haganezuka smelt the pure nature of the metal, or he's a ghost with some really buff muscles. Wait, was he always this buff? Damn dude, leave some for us. He's come to take the sword and refine it, but to do so, he would need to get through Kotetsu and Tanjiro. With those muscles, of course, he does so easily. We don't get this particular panel showing Kotetsu's close-up. Even though we do get it in the wide shot, I'll still count it as missing for now. Haganezuka uses his newly found King Kong strength to brush off the kids, but then Kanamori shows up and incapacitates the giant ape by tickling him. Funny ending if you ask me. We do get a panning shot showing Haganezuka on the ground and then Kanamori, but in the manga, it was split into two panels. And this panel close-up of Kanamori's face was reversed in sequence in the manga. The close-up scene of Kotetsu chucking rocks at Haganezuka's face wasn't in the manga. And does it seem that Kotetsu has a miracle ability to spawn rocks? Anyways, it seems Haganezuka was in the hills training, as he wanted to make a much better sword for Tanjiro, even though he's probably tried to murder the young swordsman 1,000 times over. This is where he pounces on them once more and lets them know, hey, I just wanted to get the blade to refine it, but this does get him into an argument with Kotetsu. The entire scene of them tickling Haganezuka and wearing him down was an anime exclusive. We even get a scene of him giving Tanjiro his new blade, whereas in the manga, Tanjiro only lightly mentioned that he got a new one. This all seems to be a flashback, as now Tanjiro regales his adventures to Genya, as if they were all buddy-buddy. And oh, if Genya sounds familiar, he is the voice actor for Bakugo. Even without looking that up, I could recognize his damn voice anywhere without a question. As usual, Genya isn't having it and screams at Tanjiro about his broken arm. But you assaulted a girl, so you deserve it, right? Also, the flashback was anime only. This is where he would notice that Genya's tooth grew back. But how could that be possible? He's got Genya's tooth right in his pocket, which is disgusting if you ask me. Genya shares this same sentiment and kicks him out. Unlike in the manga, we don't get his final dialogue asking why Genya is so mad and that he's got to be hungry. Trust me Tanjiro, I understand that part all too well. The next scene of Tanjiro doing Nezuko's hair wasn't in the manga. This is where we get his dialogue, and it also shows that Tanjiro is slowly learning how to do Nezuko's hair. Because if you didn't notice, Tanjiro always uses a clip, and now he's learning to do her hair through Mitsuri. If you'd like to know more facts and details that you missed, I have a ton of videos to show you some without any spoilers, of course. And oh, by the way, more of those videos will be coming out soon. It's just taking a little longer to work on them than expected. But anyways, we zip on over to another part of the village where we see a swordsmith stumble onto a weird pot, and immediately we know this is an upper rank. My dude, don't touch that. But he does and gets sucked in and killed off in the most brutal way. When the pot spills out, Gyoko then emerges. His voice actor is Kosuke Toriumi, and you probably recognize some of his roles like Kiba Inuzuka from Naruto, Nozel Silva from Black Clover, and Flashy Flash from One Punch Man. This seems to be the information he found out and is now acting upon. He's found the Swordsmith Village, and this is extremely bad as he's not alone. Hantengu came with him. This is where we get to see the upper rank on some building seemingly near the sleeping Tanjiro and Nezuko. This is where the chapter would end and the midpoint of the episode. The episode would resume with Genya searching for his swordsmith, and I assume that the smith that was killed by Gyoko was his smith, but there's no confirmation on that, so take that with a grain of salt. This is all anime exclusive content, but after that we get back on track with manga chapter 106 titled Enemy Attack. It begins with Muichiro waking up Tanjiro by holding his nose. Nezuko seems so cute while she's asleep. Muichiro is looking for Kanamori, who's currently with Haganezuka, and he heard that Tanjiro would know where they are, and luckily he does and offers to help the Hashira to find them, which he found pretty strange that Tanjiro would go out of his way to help. Tanjiro then responds he's just a helpful guy, and here is Nezuko to help as well, but it seems that Muichiro doesn't really remember her and questions it. This is where Nezuko would mimic Muichiro's gestures, and Tanjiro can't help but mimic as well. In the manga we did get a line of Tanjiro saying that Nezuko's blood has changed, and he thought that Muichiro was talking about Tamayo's cat. This was removed in the anime, and now we get to understand a little bit more about what Tanjiro was saying about Muichiro. It seems that Muichiro isn't doing all of this on purpose, he's just driven by logic. Tanjiro seems to hear someone else entering the room, only to turn around and see that it's Upper Moon 4 Hantengu that opens the door. This catches all three of them off guard. For a demon of such high level to approach without them noticing until the very last minute is unheard of. Even if Tanjiro didn't notice, Muichiro would. But this didn't slow down their reaction time. Muichiro launches his mist breathing, but the demon dodges only to see Tanjiro launch an attack. The only difference I found here is the stance that Muichiro took when drawing his blade. In the anime, he drew it from the back, but in the manga, he already had it in his hand before unsheathing. This is where the manga would explain how Tanjiro got his new blade. But Hantengu's got scales and dodges that attack too. The anime gives us a really cool scene of Nezuko transforming before she kicks the demon. This is what Tanjiro had mentioned, that her blood seems to have changed. She has much more control over her berserk form, though it doesn't seem to be as strong anymore. Finally, Muichiro would get his chance to lop off the demon's head. Tanjiro then remembers his fight with Daki and warns Muichiro to stay on his guard, and he was right. The demon now morphs into two other demons, one of which uses wind demon blood art to blow away parts of the building and send the mist Hashira flying. Tanjiro didn't get blasted away due to Nezuko saving him, but now they're up against two new demons. This is a part of Hantengu, the emotion demon's power. He can split himself and his emotions into clones. This is Sekiru, anger, who has lightning blood art, and Karaku, relaxed, who has wind blood art. The only panel I saw here missing was this one, showing Sekiru with Karaku behind him. Very quickly, Sekiru gets to work and electrocutes Tanjiro to the point where he almost loses consciousness. We do get a great shot of a staff in the anime, and now Tanjiro spots Genya with a freaking gun on the high ground where the demons didn't even notice him as yet. This is where the chapter would end. We would also skip this panel showing Genya has a direct shot of Sekiru. Chapter 107, titled In the Way, begins with Genya firing a shot at both demons' heads. This special gun's bullets is made out of nichirine ore, which works much like how nichirine blades work when it comes into contact with demon flesh. And oh yeah, to learn more about nichirine blades with no spoilers, check out the video in the card and the pinned comments. I've also linked the spoiler version if you'd like to check that out too. But anyways, Genya realizes that one of the demons wasn't decapitated properly, so he moves in for the kill. The anime gives us this really cool scene of Genya reloading before attacking, but something seems off, doesn't it? It's almost as if the demon is deliberately allowing itself to get cut. Tanjiro screams out, warning him. However, it's too late. We don't get this wide shot panel showing everyone. Genya does succeed in slicing off its head, but just like before, the demon splits into two more bodies while Tanjiro finally gets up. Most of the shots of the demons regenerating and splitting were anime exclusive, and we also get a shot of Tanjiro searching for the fourth demon before being carried off. This new clone has wings. This is Yurogi, Hantengu's clone of joy. Tanjiro shouts to Nezuko for her not to worry about him and to help Genya instead. Genya now faces off with Sadness, who's named Aizetsu, and he spears Genya right in the gut, and man, that's got to be a killing blow. Yurogi would launch one of his sound cries before Tanjiro retaliates with his Hinokami, but it's not fast enough and he gets hit. In the manga, it was only apparent in one panel that he cut the demon's leg, while the others hid the leg, but in the anime, we do clearly see it as he falls to the forest floor. He does catch a branch and a few other tree limbs on the way down, which breaks his fall and not his neck or his back or any of the 200 bones in his body, miraculously. Now here's where I thought something cool happened. When Tanjiro tries to get up, he notices a tiny Yurogi mini-me clone on his leg, which gives him a point-blank scream. I kinda chuckled at that one. We do cut away to catch up with Muichiro, who notices that Kotetsu is fighting for his damn life against this fish demon. Muichiro is in his mind and doesn't see the point of saving the kid, as his priority would be to save the chief of the village. He then remembers Tanjiro's words and it motivates him to save Kotetsu. Talk no jutsu is definitely working. Muichiro slices off the demon's hand. Fin. Fish hand? whatever. Within the manga, Kotetsu didn't drop the katana, but in the anime, he did. Muichiro lets the kid know that he's in his way, and this would be the end of the chapter and also the end of the episode. We can now see why the last episode had been cut off and only relegated to about 3 chapters in order to facilitate where the action would start, and this deep contrast in action versus comedy, which I found was pretty cool. I must say this episode was a bit underwhelming for me when it came on to the CG fish. It threw me for a little bit. I didn't think it was as good as it could be, and I found myself asking, did they have enough time to sit back and make this thing? But at the same time, I can come up with the excuse saying, hey, it was made to be off-putting, but it's fine either way. Let's just get to the numbers. Demon Slayer: The Swordsmith Village episode 3, titled A Sword from 300 Years Ago, covered 3 manga chapters, each chapter having an average of 19 pages, adding up to 59 pages, each page having an average of around 69 panels, adding up to 209 panels, with 5 of those being unique or not adapted, which means only 204 panels were adapted out of all 3 chapters, which converts to 97.61. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this episode, and leave me a like on your way out. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. It really helps the channel. I've been your host, Kyle. Thanks again for joining. Peace out and stay safe out there, V Nation. Bye.